What if Hollywood's biggest legends weren't just acting tough, but hiding real criminal pasts? For decades, the glamorous stars of cinema's golden age seemed untouchable. Perfect smiles, flawless reputations, and images so polished that millions of fans believed every word of their publicity. But behind that illusion were stories Hollywood never wanted you to hear. Stories of reform schools, mob ties, bar fights, and even manslaughter convictions. Studios spent millions burying these truths because one headline could destroy an actor's career overnight. Today, we're pulling back the curtain. From the king of cool himself to Academy Award winners and even old blue eyes, you're about to discover the shocking reality behind Hollywood's golden idols. And trust me, once you hear these stories, you'll never look at their films the same way again. Steve McQueen, the king of cool with a criminal past. Steve McQueen looked effortless on screen. In The Great Escape and Bullet, he radiated rebellious independence, but that wasn't just Hollywood magic. It came straight from his troubled youth. McQueen's life began in chaos. Abandoned by his father and neglected by his alcoholic mother, he found belonging in street gangs. By the age of 9, he was already stealing, vandalizing, and fighting. By 14, he was arrested and shipped off to California Junior Boys Republic, a reform school for troubled kids. Publicists later described it as a boarding school experience. The truth? It was punishment for a long record of petty crimes. Even in the Marines, McQueen couldn't resist trouble. He was thrown in the brig for going AWOL and overstaying passes. Yet Hollywood transformed these failures into marketable charm. Instead of juvenile delinquent, they called him independent. Instead of repeat offender, they sold him as rebellious. Directors knew better. His raw intensity wasn't acting. It came from lived experience. As one filmmaker put it, Steve doesn't act tough. He is tough. But McQueen wasn't the only one whose criminal streak defined his stardom. Edward G. Robinson. From street gangs to cinematic gangsters, Edward G. Robinson is remembered as Hollywood's definitive gangster, the sneering mastermind in Little Caesar and the ruthless villain in Key Largo. What audiences didn't know is that Robinson may have understood crime better than anyone expected. Born Emmanuel Goldenberg, he grew up in New York's violent Lower East Side, where gangs ruled the streets. Biographers suggest Robinson had peripheral ties to these groups, enough to keep him safe in a dangerous neighborhood. He was never arrested, but the exposure was real, and it showed. His performances carried an authenticity other actors couldn't fake. Director Fritz Lang once remarked, "Eddie understands something about the criminal mind that most actors have to research." Publicity departments hid that reality, instead portraying Robinson as a cultured intellectual, fluent in 7 languages, and a sophisticated art collector. Both versions were true. Robinson lived in 2 worlds, the refined and the rough. That duality made his gangsters unforgettable. But Robinson's ties were whispers. The next actor's scandals were far louder. Frank Sinatra, Old Blue Eyes, and the Mob Connection. Frank Sinatra wasn't just one of the greatest singers of the 20th century. He was also one of Hollywood's most enduring stars. But behind the charm and velvet voice was a man constantly shadowed by whispers of organized crime. From the 1940s onward, Sinatra's friendships with mob figures were an open secret. He was photographed with Lucky Luciano, Sam Giancana, and other underworld heavyweights. FBI files, thousands of pages long, tracked his movements for decades, documenting alleged ties that never seemed to go away. One infamous story claimed Sinatra helped Giancana connect with the Kennedys during JFK's rise, though no hard proof ever surfaced. Another rumor alleged the mob leaned on casino owners to give Sinatra lucrative contracts in Las Vegas. He always denied wrongdoing, insisting his mob ties were exaggerated. But the speculation became part of his image. While other stars ran from scandal, Sinatra turned it into mystique. The press called him dangerous, magnetic, unpredictable, and that edge only made him more alluring to audiences. As one critic observed, when Sinatra sang about heartbreak, you believed it. When he played a tough guy, you believed that too, because the danger around him was real. Paul Kelly. The leading man who killed Paul Kelly was a respected actor in Crossfire and The High and the Mighty. But his career almost ended before it began, with a manslaughter conviction. In 1927, Kelly became involved with actress Dorothy Mackay, who happened to be married to fellow actor Ray Raymond. When Raymond confronted him, Kelly beat him so brutally that he died 2 days later. The trial was sensational. Kelly was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to San Quentin. Most actors would have been finished, but Hollywood pulled strings. After serving just over 2 years, Kelly walked free and, shockingly, married Dorothy Mackay, the widow of the man he killed. Studios spun his comeback as a personal break from acting. Newspapers quietly dropped the scandal. Remarkably, audiences accepted him again. Film historian Anthony Slide called it perhaps the most successful image rehabilitation in Hollywood history. Kelly's story proves just how much Hollywood was willing to bury to protect its stars, but not every crime made headlines. Some lived in rumor and shadow. James Cagney, rumored mob ties. James Cagney is remembered as the ultimate gangster actor. In The Public Enemy and White Heat, his explosive performances defined the genre. But were his portrayals so authentic because he had real mob ties? Born in the Lower East Side, Cagney grew up surrounded by mobsters. Rumors followed him for decades, alleged involvement in union violence, friendships with organized crime figures, even FBI surveillance. Declassified files confirm the FBI tracked him for suspected mob connections, though he was never charged. Warner Brothers fought hard to keep him clean, emphasizing his dancer's training and intellectual side. But critics noticed his gangsters felt too real. Director Raoul Walsh once said, "Jimmy knows something about these characters that other actors don't. His gangsters aren't performances, they're lived." Whether true or not, those rumors only made his legacy stronger. But some stars didn't just flirt with crime, they lived it openly before Hollywood intervened. John Garfield, street thief, turned film noir. Rebel. John Garfield embodied rebellion. In body and soul and force of evil, his characters burned with defiance. But his edge wasn't invented. Born Julius Garfinkel, he grew up in poverty on New York's Lower East Side. He admitted to petty theft and was arrested multiple times as a teenager. By his own account, pickpocketing and gang fights were part of his survival. A teacher changed his path, channeling Garfield's intensity into acting. Still, his troubled past was always there, just below the surface. Warner Brothers sanitized his biography, but Garfield himself occasionally hinted at the truth. His authenticity made him perfect for film noir. He didn't need to study the struggles of outsiders. He had lived them. Anthony Quinn, from East LA gangs to international star. Before he became an Oscar-winning legend, Anthony Quinn was a gang kid in East Los Angeles. By his teens, he had police run-ins and at least one assault charge. But Quinn had another gift: art. His talent in sculpture and design caught the attention of Frank Lloyd Wright, who became a mentor. That path saved him. Still, his volatile side followed him. Early in his career, fights and altercations gave him a reputation for hot temper. Studios reframed this as passionate artistry. Later in life, Quinn became a sophisticated intellectual, fluent in 5 languages, an art collector, and a poet. His transformation was dramatic, but his early struggles never left his eyes. As Fellini once said, Anthony contains multitudes. He has seen both beauty and brutality. Mickey Rooney, child star, secret delinquent, Mickey Rooney's on-screen persona was pure innocence, America's boy next door. Behind the scenes, a different story. As a teenager, Rooney was repeatedly arrested for theft, vandalism, and even drunk driving. MGM went to extreme lengths to hide everything. Records were erased, arrests reframed as pranks. To the public, he was wholesome Andy Hardy. To insiders, he was unpredictable, rebellious, and troubled. Even Rooney admitted later, "I was the most supervised and least guided child in Hollywood. Everyone watched me, but no one really saw me." Spencer Tracy. From drunk tanks to moral authority. Spencer Tracy became the image of moral authority, winning Oscars for roles as priests, judges, and men of integrity. Yet before his stardom, he was arrested multiple times for bar fights, disorderly conduct, and public intoxication. MGM buried it all. Newspapers erased his record. Publicity departments constructed a new biography of a calm, thoughtful man, and remarkably, audiences believed it. But Tracy's acting style, restrained, layered, suggesting explosive emotions beneath the surface, may have come from his real battles with volatility. Director George Cukor observed, "Spencer understands the effort it takes for a man to keep himself in check. That truth is in every performance." George Raft, the mob's man in Hollywood. Few actors blurred the line between real mobster and screen mobster like George Raft. Growing up in Hell's Kitchen, Raft ran errands for gangsters and worked as a driver for crime figures. Even after moving to Hollywood, he stayed close with mob legends like Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky. Studios couldn't hide it, so they spun it, calling his past colorful. It worked. Raft's gangsters in A Scarface and Each Dawn I Die were eerily real, but his mob ties cost him. He turned down the Maltese Falcon because the character was an informant, violating his underworld loyalty code. Later, governments denied him entry for film work because of his associations. He didn't just play gangsters, he lived among them. From petty theft to prison time, from mob ties to manslaughter, Hollywood's golden idols carried shadows studios didn't want the world to see. The illusion of perfect stars was built on buried police records, silenced scandals, and rewritten biographies. And yet those dark pasts shaped the very performances that made them legends. McQueen's defiance, Cagney's authenticity, Garfield's street edge, these weren't just characters, they were reflections of lived reality. In an industry built on illusion, maybe the most powerful performances weren't acting at all. So, which of these revelations surprised you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more stories peeling back Hollywood's hidden history, don't forget to like and subscribe.